All right, guys, how's it going? Now, before I get into this video, I just want to let you know that I'll be hosting a live stream on here on coptalk.tv, all right? This evening at around 6 or 7 o'clock UK time, all right? I'm not sure when yet, but it'll be around that time. I will schedule it later. Just click on my channel name on here, and you should see the live schedule later today. But if you don't, just come along about 6:37, right? And we'll have an answer. Okay, so we are going to kick off today with another exclusive. It's my favourite feature on this channel, to be honest. I do like the Trader Trent feature because it upsets a few wet wipes. So we have a few giggles in the comments on that one. You know, the exclusives, I know you guys like them. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this. It came out last night, late last night. I'm going to go through it with you and also with Dave. I've asked Dave, my AI assistant, to analyse the article. And Dave is my AI. I've been training him for around 9 months, and he identifies so many things that I actually miss sometimes. So it's really, really helpful. And I can now show you exclusively what Dave looks like. There he is. Look, there's Dave. Look, what a fucking hero. Smash it, Dave. Do you remember that, guys? Smash it, Dave. Anyway, so we're going to read this exclusive together. Remember, the more ads, the more bullshit. Because if you visit a website with limited advertising or no advertising, what is in the benefit, you know, of the author of the article? This one is riddled in advertising. I can't read all of it to you. That wouldn't be right. So when it explains who, you know, Isak is, or what Liverpool did last year, or what they're doing in the market this year, I'll leave them bits out. So we're going to focus on the exclusive content, right? Because that's exclusive. Okay. If you think I'm leaving anything in or out to make it look good or bad, just Google it yourself, and then you can compare it to my video to see if I've been fair. Now, it's published on a website called DaveOCCop.com, which many of you, if you use X social media, will be aware of this. And this account, DaveOCCop, on Twitter, on X. My own personal thoughts is that it's probably the most monetized account there is, really, in terms, you know, like, it's always like putting out, you know, posts about, you know, buy the latest Liverpool golf balls or latest Liverpool fucking Y-fronts or something like that. It's very commercialized and it's excessive advertising on the website. But, you know, people have got to pay bills and that's up to them. They can do what they want. But it just, I always think it lacks credibility when you focus more on selling than you are providing useful, helpful content to people. So let's go through it together. Exclusive. How much Liverpool are willing to pay for Alexander Isak, right? So we'll start with me. Look, adverts everywhere. Look, you know, close that down. Let's move in. Right, here we go. So, and a new advert's popped up at the bottom, which is kind of like, you know, it's ruining the user's experience as well. On my website, coptalk.com, you will never get anything like that. Right. We can exclusively reveal how much Liverpool are willing to spend on Alexander Isak. So by the end of this article, you and I should know exactly how much Liverpool are willing to spend on Alexander Isak. So it opens with, you know, talking about the player's future, 3 years left on his 5-year deal, talking about Liverpool signing Ekitike, Benjamin Sesko, you know, that problem there, you know, like obviously it doesn't say it here, but might do later on, but obviously Manchester United are trying to sign him. That could be a problem. We really need Newcastle to sign reinforcements. I'm just going to scroll past more adverts to try and get to additional content. The next 1, 2, 3 paragraphs are just filler, just blurb really, saying what other journalists have said, so there's nothing here to do with the exclusive or anything like that. We've now got to some bold text, some bold capital letters. Here you can see, so that's serious biz, right? So this says how much Liverpool are willing to pay for Alexander Isak. So this is the headline. This is where we expect to, you know, discover something new, right? Dave O'Cocop can exclusively reveal that Liverpool are likely to sign Isak for 120 million plus add-ons this window. The move is expected to accelerate quickly. Not it will move quickly or Liverpool will sign, likely, expected. The move is expected to accelerate quickly once a formal bid is tabled. I don't know about you, but when I read an exclusive, I want someone to tell me something new, all right? And also to say what's going to happen or what has happened, right? So this is left very open for me. I think these I look for, when there's exclusives, I look for get-outs, using words like likely and expected if you were to challenge the authors of these articles later. Because, well, it was likely, it didn't say it was definitely going to happen. It's an exclusive, right? So, come on. £120 million plus add-ons, a figure that I've seen multiple times. Last paragraph is Newcastle are aware of Liverpool's intention to bid for Isak with a £120 million fee set to be the fee that will eventually close the deal. Liverpool have an agreement in place on personal terms with the 25-year-old. Information that's already out there. There's nothing exclusive about that. Football clubs do not bid for players unless they've already unofficially, indirectly agreed personal terms. So the exclusive in the article, or the headline, is how much Liverpool is basically willing to pay. And it's £120 million plus add-ons, right? So that is the extent of the exclusive. I feel personally that all of that information is out there already, but you let me know in the comment section. So I ran this by Dave, right? Dave is me and Dave cafe in the morning, man. It's fucking great. Right. Let's see what he's got to say about it. Now, there is a lot of information here, so I might have to pause to skip round bits, right? But I'll do my best. General first impressions from Dave. Website riddled with ads. Always a red flag. And I've never told him that, right? That's not a sin in itself, but when it's excessive and paired with exclusive claims, it screams, I need traffic to pay rent. There's a quote in the article. This comes under general first impressions that Dave has flagged up. We can exclusively reveal, said every football clickbait merchant since 2012. Let's break down the article. Isak training alone in Spain at Real Sociedad's ground. This nugget has been floating around social media and forums for days already. It's not exclusive. If anything, it's recycled ready. It also mentions about the article mentions about Isak being in San Sebastian with his representative, but Dave says it's vague. There's a lot of reports about this. Is he training? Is he with his agent? Is he on strike? It's vague, right? Dave flags up the quote, Craig Hope told TalkSport the agent wants a move. This is the only thing in the article that is real and sourced, and it's not their information. They're piggybacking on Craig Hope, a credible journalist, and that isn't exclusive. Shesko is the key. The link between Isak's move and Shesko is speculative at best. While it's plausible Newcastle would want a replacement lined up, there's zero evidence in this article that the clubs are linking one deal to the other directly. I mean, most of us you'd expect Newcastle to want to get, a striker in, but with the way that the situation appears to be panning out, behind the scenes, it doesn't necessarily mean that has to happen. You would think it would have to happen, but Dave's right to flag up that there's zero evidence to suggest that they are linked. So it is speculative. The Shesko to Man United interest has been widely reported already. Again, no new information here, just stitching together existing news. And then Dave's quoting this bit. Dave O.C. Cop can exclusively reveal that Liverpool are likely to sign Isak for £120 million plus add-ons. Here's where it gets proper silly, says Dave. Likely to sign and exclusive equals contradiction. If it's just likely, then you're guessing. The fee quoted is £120 million plus add-ons, but there's no mention of sources, whether it's agents, intermediaries, club officials, or even someone who once sold Isak a sandwich. No mention of timing, no explanation of where this figure came from, and no context that suggests why Liverpool will suddenly go from, being cautious, with negotiating or whatever the fees to, outright dropping. Oh, it's £120 million. No trusted journalist getting wind of it first, basically. So what we're saying, what Dave is trying to say here, I think, is that we've all seen the £120 million figure bandied around, but I'm not so sure that we've seen a real credible journalist say that is exactly what Liverpool are going to offer. Also, Liverpool have an agreement in place on personal terms. That's a massive claim to bury in the final paragraph, but there's no Joyce, no Ornstein, not even Romano. Do me a favour, says Dave. Holes in the story. No attribution. If you're dropping an exclusive, where is the source? I mean, you don't name the source, but like Dave says here, even sources close to the player would be something. No timing details. When did personal terms get agreed? Before or after Ekitike? No contract structure detail, no payment terms, no clauses, no info on wages, just add-ons. That's vague as hell. Contradiction. If Newcastle are waiting for Shesko and Man United are now favourites for him, wouldn't that stall any Isak deal? Yet this claims things will, quote, accelerate quickly. It says here there's been no push on this, from the Liverpool media side of things. Joyce hasn't blinked. That tells you everything. Although I think Joyce and Ornstein, let's focus on Joyce here. I think Joyce surfaces when something needs to be out there. So if Joyce is quiet, I actually think that's probably a good thing, to be honest with you. So Dave's verdict. The article is just a poorly disguised aggregation of already known facts, sprinkled with speculative numbers to hook in fans and hit advertising targets. There is absolutely no original journalism, and the so-called exclusive is nothing more than a calculated guess dressed up with urgent-sounding phrasing. In short, it's likely fiction, written to exploit the buzz around Isak and Liverpool. The author's motivations are traffic and monetization, not informing the public. And that, my friends, is it. And basically, there was a suggested summary for your readers. We've got another so-called exclusive doing the rounds, and surprise, surprise, it's packed full of recycled info, vague claims, and a headline number thrown in for clicks. There's nothing exclusive here, unless you count the exclusive right to waste your time. And that, my friends, was Dave's verdict. So there you go. I'm sure you'd agree. I don't know if I've said this or not, but this website, Dave OC Cop, right? I don't think there's any decent Liverpool websites around these days. And this is coming from a guy that has, created the world's most successful football fan site. That's not my opinion. That is a fact. And, obviously today I think that there's a lot of focus and concentration on, audio and video content. So there isn't a lot that goes into written stuff. And many of the, so-called fan sites today are dreadful. Really, really, really poor. And I feel for you guys if you like reading them. However, Dave OC's Cop's website, it has so much potential to be a really, really good website. But the emphasis is on, I feel, clickbait. When I post a news article on coptalk.com, I post it in full on X. I don't put, here's a link, click through. I post it there for the viewer to read it, the reader to see it there. They don't have to go to my website. And even if they did, they wouldn't be subjected to the advertising on websites like this. And I do think I'm experienced to pass comment on this. I have done it for nearly 30 years. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I was offered more than £1 million for Cop Talk, £1.3 million. And do you know why I didn't take that? Because I'm a fucking idiot. No, because there was a lot of, things that I would have to work for someone and I wouldn't have the say on what was done. And they wanted me to exploit the various former Liverpool players that worked for me. And I didn't want to do that. And I'm glad I didn't really. Sometimes when it's shit, I wish that I had. I think, when you get abuse, you think I should have just took the money and fucked off, But no, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't have met so many of you people, But it's a shame because I think that website could be really good. But there you go. It's everybody's got to do what they've got to do. Advertising is on this website to generate revenue. And I think that if you're a fan site, I know more than anybody, you need to generate revenue to exist. But then there becomes a line where you have to decide, right, there's existing and people understanding that you've got your bills to pay that are associated to your hosting and all the complications that come with it. And then there's like making money to go and buy a speedboat or something. And what's wrong with that if someone's putting all the effort in? It doesn't matter. But I think you've got to be authentic. And if you misleading or coming across as misleading, or is this really exclusive? Is this exclusive to inform you, like Dave said, to update the public, or is it more about just generating revenue? That's what you have to decide. That I more than anyone. I have Cop Talk, right? I have the members website, the VIP members website. There's zero advertising on this because it's a members site, right? That people can support me, and join the members website. But each month, I have targets I have to meet financially. So, for example, in August next month, I know minimum I have to make around €1,300 in August before I pay any hosting, before I pay any subscriptions, before I pay any bills in my own house, before I have a life, right? Because the tax man wants nearly €900. In Spain, you have to pay €300 a month to be self-employed, regardless of your income. So there's 900, 300, 100 to your accountant. That's before you start. So I know what is required. I have to generate revenue myself, right? That's why I have fucking memberships and subscriptions, and I hate them. Back in the day when Cop Talk started, the advertising revenue was so good, you didn't need subscriptions and memberships and things. Everything was free. And the advertising revenue is good. But because the advertising bubble burst in the year 2000, it was called the dot-com bubble burst. So many websites went under, the big companies that threw millions and millions and millions. Somebody else tried to buy my website, separate to the one that I'm telling you about now, that tried to buy the website from me. They were New York investors. They met me in Sweden, right? And there was another company that tried to buy Cop Talk, and I went in and met this person in an office. They're central. They had when I walked through this huge building, they had all these computers and young people doing like Liverpool, Manchester United news, Tottenham, Arsenal, and all that. It was a very serious organization, and they also owned a betting company. So when I used to watch the horse race and that, you would see their advertising boards when the horses are jumping over and shit like that, right? They're a big firm, and they offered me hundreds of thousands of pounds to go under their wing, if you like, and shares, a lot of shares, value of shares. I was a young man. I didn't understand about all this, and people were saying to me, well, shares are worthless because they can say their shares are worth, privately millions or whatever, but if anything goes wrong, fuck all, So I never thought about going with them, but let me tell you this. So the owner sat me down in a room and said, we really want Cop Talk to be part of all of this. We can see what you've achieved, right? And Cop Talk was new. It was the best fucking website in the world, guys. There's no doubt about it. They were fucking crawling all over me, all these different advertising networks and everything. It was the cornerstone of everything, trust me. It's not just me saying it, it fucking was, right? I'm not very good at many things in life, but I'm fucking good at this, right? And this guy said to me, he says, I've invested £2 million setting all this up, these websites. It's a matter of interest. How much did you invest in Cop Talk when you started that back in the day? I went about £30. He was like, what? I went, yeah. And what happened was the dot-com bubble burst, which is what I told you about, right? His entire operation went to shit. It folded because of the advertising bubble bursting, right? So the betting company went under. All of the websites went under. I survived. And the reason I survived was because I created the Cop Talk VIP members website, right? Which is the first, if you think, like, behind a paywall kind of thing. But it was optional. And I knew I had to survive, and I saw it coming. So I launched a website with zero advertising for a membership fee, right? All the other websites, Liverpool websites, slaughtered me. He's a scammer. He's a con man. The internet's supposed to be free. Listen, I agree. But how do I exist if I don't have revenue, right? So I found a way of generating revenue when I knew that advertising bubble was bursting. And to put it into context, Back then, you might get, say, £10,000 for a certain amount of advertising on your website, whereas today you might get less than a tenner for the same amount of advertising. That's how much it changed, right? So that's why you now get clickbait on, whether you want to look at this website or not. I'm not really certain that you would call that clickbait, because it says how much Liverpool are willing to pay for Alexander Isak, and they do make the article, the claim in the article. So I wouldn't define that as clickbait, because it's actually true. The article headline with the content, whether you believe it or not, is a different thing, or whether you think it's exclusive. But if you look at Reach PLC, the Liverpool Echo, they always try and use all these catchy headlines. And when you get to these websites, you can't, especially on a mobile phone, really view them, because there's so many adverts. That's because back in the day on Cop Talk, on the non-members website, if you go to coptalk.com, the front page, there's probably 2 adverts on it, I don't know. And it's always been like that, right? But today, you now have to have instead of just having one, advert, you need to have dozens to try and get a fraction of the cost. So for example, if we go to the front page of coptalk.com, I don't even know myself, right? So we're going to go to coptalk.com. As you can see, you visit my website, right? And do you see any adverts popping up on your screen? Any videos auto playing? Do you see anything? Do you see any adverts? Nothing, right? Because I try and do things right for people that visit. And the way I operate is, hey, do you know what? If you like what I do, you can get me a beer or a coffee. I don't try and sell anything or out, right? So if we click on an article, so this is a news article. I've just clicked on it. It's opened up. There's your article. Do you see any adverts on there? There should be one at the bottom, I suspect. Look at that. Are you getting bothered with any pop-ups? Is there anything ruining the experience? Here we go. One article, one advert, 2 adverts at the very bottom. The very bottom. Who scrolls to the bottom of a page? That is the least profitable area on a website for advertising. The most profitable is the top, clearly, and in the middle of an article. But I choose to put the adverts at the bottom because I know no one's going to read them. It doesn't affect anyone's experience, does it? Look at that, beautiful. And that's how it should be, all right? But I'm the only fucker that does that, all right? And you remember that, because I try and do things right. And I'm very experienced with this stuff. And it's a shame. It's a shame that you guys have to be subjected to it all. Not me, because I don't read any of these fucking idiots. I only look at these for you, all right? And when I review an exclusive, some people will say to me, I think some numpty said yesterday, well, why are you reading an exclusive from a website if you know it's shit? So Football Insider, I think it was yesterday. And I think at the beginning I said, it's a shit website. I'll tell you why. Because when they publish an exclusive, it then gets regurgitated and people take bits out of it and post it, the Twitter twats. And then people don't know where it's originated from if it's not credited. So you might then get a rumour saying Rodrigo to Liverpool on loan. So I go and hunt it out. I go and find out where these things start from, so I can say to my friends on here, my long-term viewers who I consider my friends, I can say, hey guys, listen, it originates from Football Insider. I'm not sure you want to give much fucking attention to that, right? That's what we do around here. Anyway, there's your exclusive. I don't think it's very exclusive at all. I think the person behind this, I think they're all right. Do you know what I mean? But it's just an opinion. And I think I'm the biggest tool in the world. It don't matter, does it? The reality is that website has so much potential. But maybe without these kind of exclusives, maybe without all the advertising, maybe they couldn't exist. And that's me being nice. But I'll leave it with you. If you found this video informative, please thumbs up the video. If you didn't, thumbs it down. You can drop me a comment. And if you want to support me, which is purely optional, if you want to support my efforts, you can join this channel. You can join the members website. All that information is in the video description. There's a love heart under the video where you can buy me a beer or a coffee. I'm going out on Saturday, by the way. But that's just optional, For me, I like it when you guys comment because I like to see if we're on the same page with things. So, Alexander Isak, I know I've got other stuff coming up on the same subject, unfortunately. It's not an exclusive, but there is a couple of articles from the Northeast that me and Dave have taken a look at for you today. All right, guys. So I'm going to leave it with you. Let me know if you thought that was an exclusive. For me, I'm afraid not.